Hello everyone, welcome to part 1 of what's going to be a series of videos in which I do my best to talk about design and cover all of the components that we can use inside of it. And basically what design is kind of like Material UI in that it is a React library that if you install in React gives you a lot of components that you can use in your React app, and it just overall speeds up your development process a lot. I'm here at Design's documentation site, and in my opinion, Design just gives us like better documentation compared to Material UI, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I would suggest you to use Design over something like Material UI. But before we can do anything with Design, let's just walk through the setup process of the entire workflow that we're going to use. So I'm going to go to the documentation site here, and we're going to look for use in Create React App. So open your terminal up, and then you want to run, you want to install Node.js and npm, of course. I'm going to leave it to you to do that. And once you have that installed, you can run npx create-react-app and then the name of your app here. You can choose any name for your app, doesn't matter. What I've done is I've ran this command npx create-react-app nd. If I ls here, you can see that I have a folder called nd. I'm sorry if the color scheme isn't that great. I'm going to do my best to remember to change the color scheme on my terminal for next video. So run this command, and once your command is completed, you can go and cd into that directory that was created by create-react-app. Just a quick note for the rest of the videos. In this series, I'm going to be using yarn instead of npm. So if you don't have yarn, you can of course just substitute yarn with npm, or you can just go ahead and install yarn. We now have a fully functioning React app. If I do ls, you can see the directory structure of this directory that I'm in. But this is not what we are doing this series for, right? We're talking about nd. So we have to install Design, and we can do that by running yarn add nd. And let's let that run for a minute here. While this is installing nd, I'm going to go to my VS Code editor here. I'm going to show you a few extensions I'm going to use, and if you want, you can install them and use them along with me. If you don't want to, you can leave them out, it doesn't matter. I'm using bracket pair colorizer to colorize my brackets so it looks nicer and it's more understandable, and I have Prettier, which will automatically format my code whenever I save it. So I can go to my preference here, format on save. You can see I have that checked. So if you want to install Prettier and you want it to format your code to make it look nicer when you save your files, you can click this checkbox here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go and clear out some of the stuff that I don't need in here. So I'm going to delete all of these files because I don't really need them, and I'm just going to leave app.js and index.js. So right click, delete, and I'm going to delete these. So let's delete the logo, we don't need that. And then I'm going to clear the entire header here, so I'm just left with the divs. And then I'm going to go to index.js, clear out index.css, and I'm going to remove report web vitals. So now let's go ahead and fix that app.css here. You can see I'm leaving this in because I'm going to create app.css again, and I'm going to put something in here, and it's going to be nd's style sheets. So you can see in nd's documentations here, we have this add import and then this location. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it in here. So if you don't do this step here, you don't put the import into the app.css file, your React app will still work, but the Design's styles will not apply to your components. So this is quite an important step. I keep forgetting every time I create a new nd project. And in my divs, I'm going to add hello world, and then let's go to our terminal and let's start this app with the yarn start. And we can see we have our browser here, and it says hello world because that's what I typed in here, hello world. Another thing to notice here is that every time you type yarn start or npm start, Create React App will automatically open a new tab in your browser, and there's a way to disable that. I'm going to just show it to you really quickly here. So go to your package.json and go to your scripts, and then the start script, add this thing in front of your start script, browser equals to none space. So by adding this environment variable to the start script, every time I run yarn start or npm start, it's not going to automatically pop up a new browser tab for me, and I can just reuse my existing browser tabs. I'm going to show you that everything is working by making a simple button here in nd. So let me go and import button from nd. And then I'm going to go into div here, and I'm just going to render that button here. Let's say this, hi, I am a button. Let's go and save that and see if it appears in our page. And it's compiled, and we can see that the button is there, and I can change the type of the button by going to the button tags, add type equals to primary, and then we can see it becomes a primary button. Now, if you don't see a styled button here and you just see a regular HTML button, then chances are you forgot to add that import statement in your app.css and you forgot to import your app.css into your app.js. So that's just something that you have to do to make sure your styles actually go through and render on the browser page. So let me comment this out and you can see what I mean then. So now this is just a regular HTML button, and if I uncomment this, you can see that it becomes a React and design button. So in the next video, I'm going to talk more about how you can use and design buttons in React. Hello everyone, in this video, we'll be taking a look at buttons and icons in design. So this is where we left off in our previous video. We just had a little basic button here, and I'm going to actually style this button in this video. So right now the button is stuck to the top left corner of my screen. I'm just going to do some styling to make it not stuck to the screen. And I'm going to just do style equals to, let's say, margin. I'm going to do something a little crazy here, and let's say 500 pixels. By the way, this styling here, it's actually not specific to design. This is just a React styling. So you can see now we get that button a little more in the middle of the screen. So in the previous video, the button that I created has the type of primary, but if I hover on type here, you can see that it is a JSX attribute with a link text goes primary or default or dashed. So we can change this and take a look at what they look like. So I can change the type to dashed, and these are just the types that design provides to us that we can use in our button. So this is the dashed type of button. We can change this to text, and then this will just be a text button. We can change this to a link, and this is going to be how the link button looks like. So I can hover on this and you can see there's much more. There's ghost and there's default that we can use too. So I'm going to change this back to primary. Okay, so the next attribute we're going to look at is size. So the size attribute can take in large, middle, or small. So we can create like large buttons with this, and then this button is going to be larger. You can change this to a small button, and then you can see that button becomes smaller. So you can change the sizes here. I'm going to leave this at large so we can see the button better. And the next attribute I'm going to show you is actually a pretty cool attribute, and it's called loading. So you just have to add loading in here, and when I save this, you can go and look at the button and you can see it is currently in a loading state, and when it's loading, you can't really click on it. So that's the loading state of the button. And of course, when you're working on an actual project with React, you would set the loading in your component state, so you can dynamically change the loading state of the button. The next thing is block. The block attribute will make the button fill up the entirety of the parent's width. This is actually our viewport's width. You can see that the button is filling up the entire screen, and the reason it's skewed over like that is because I added that margin of 500 pixels. That's why it is sideways here. I'm gonna get rid of that because it looks really ugly. And there's also a new type of attribute in design 4.0, and that is the attribute called danger. So the danger button just looks red, and it's more intimidating to click on it. So that's the danger attribute. We also have disable. So disable will disable the button so you can't click it, and you can look at the cursor. The cursor is giving us feedback and telling us that we should not click on this button. The previous four attributes that I showed you, that was loading, block, danger, and disable. Ideally, these attributes should be stored in your state so that you can dynamically change the attribute of your component on the fly. So that's pretty much the basics of buttons, but now let's talk about icons. So design provides us with a set of default icons. It's actually quite a huge set of icons. Of course, you can use other icons in your React application. You can use React-icons, but to use design's icons, we'll first have to install it like with this command here. So you can use npm, of course, but I'm going to use yarn. So /icons. So let me stop the server here. Yarn add /design /icons. So I'm going to wait for it to run here. And it's done. So I'm going to yarn start again to restart the server. Now notice that if I had not add this browser equals to none environment variable, it would pop up a new tab in my browser, and it's going to be annoying to keep closing so many browser tabs. So it's just something that you can add in your package.json file. So one way to use icons in design would be to put it inside of a button. So let me import one of these icons here. Let's take a look. We can import this plus outline button. So to import it, we just click on this icon in the documentation here, and then it will copy that component's name to our clipboard. let's go back to our VS Code here and import that. So I'm going to import this from at n-design/icons, and we have to get rid of this opening and closing tags because that's just the name of the component. It's not the actual component itself. To put that icon into our button, we can just add icon equals to, and then curly braces and plus outline. So this will add the icon to our button, and I'm going to go back to my browser here and refresh this. Now, another way that you can do this is to take this icon attribute, delete that. We can put that icon component as a child component of our button component. Let me save that, and you can see that it works. I can add text here, let's say add new, actually create new record. We can save that, and we can say create new record, so it works perfectly. And just for fun, let's change the icon here. I'm going to get a plus circle outlined icon, and I'm going to paste that in here. So when I paste this, it's going to give us squiggly lines because this is not imported, so we have to import that from n-design/icons. Let me save that, and let's refresh this, and you can see that we have that new icon here, and you can change as many icons as you want. You can also change this button type to danger, and then this will become red. So there's just a lot of things that you can do. Just remember that if you want to change this on the fly, you have to use React states and maybe React hooks to help you change these buttons on the fly. So that was n-design's buttons and icons. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can use the typography component in n-design to customize your text and make titles and give styles to your text. Hello everyone! Today we'll be taking a look at typographies in n-design. So in the last video, we created this button and we talked a bit about button and icons. But in today's code, I'm going to get rid of that button entirely because we're going to just be looking at typographies. So I'm going to get rid of all of those. The thing that we're going to need to import from n-design to create typographies is import typography. And then what we can do is we can import titles from n-design. You're going to have to import it with const title equals to typography. So basically what we're doing here is we are destructuring title from the typography object that we have imported from n-design. So we can go and use that title component here in our app divs. So in title we can add something like this is a title, and I'm going to save this, and let's just go and run look at how it looks like. So it actually looks really nice, this title, this font. I'm not sure what font exactly is that they're using, but it looks quite nice. And there are a few levels that we can configure to the title. So you can add a level attribute that says like 2. Let's add level 2, and it's going to be smaller. We can add level 3, and it's going to be even smaller. So it's basically descending. We can go all the way to 5, and it's going to be the smallest title. At least I think number 5 is the smallest level that we can go in n-design's titles. But I'm gonna just leave it at level, let's see, level 2. Let's just leave it at that. Another thing that we can destructure from the typography object from n-d is the text object. The text component is something that we can use in n-d as well to customize our texts. So let me write this is a text, and then let's render that, and you can see a text is just a smaller version that we can use for our content. So let me go and take a look at what attributes we have access to in the text component. So you can, in VS Code, if you're using VS Code, you can use the hotkey of Control and space, and you can look at all of the possible properties and attributes that you can type in your components and objects. So I'm going to do type equals to. So we can see that here we have type of danger, success, warning, and secondary. So I'm going to do type of danger. You can see it's just red. It's basically just the colors of the text. I can do warning, and I think it's going to be yellow or orange. Yes, it is yellow orangey. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it a style. I'm going to give it a style of font size of, let's do 50 pixels. And I'm going to change this to danger, so it looks more intimidating. Okay, now let me get rid of that, and I'm going to copy and paste this text component for a few times, because there are a few more attributes that I'm going to show you that so that you can differentiate each components from each other. So one of them is disable, and this will basically disable the text, and it's going to be grayed out. And then there's also mark, which is kind of like highlighting in n-design, and there's code, which basically makes it look like code snippets that you can embed into your websites. And then there's keyboard, and then underline. We're going to take a look at all of these later in the preview. And then we have delete. So this is like red deleted text, and then there's strong, which is basically just bold text, and then there's italic text. So let me save this, and then I'm going to go and refresh this, and actually I should give it a line break between each component. So I'm going to save that, and let's refresh our page. So you can see this is a disabled text, and when we hover over it, you can see that our cursor gives us feedback to tell us that this text is disabled, and I can't highlight that. Then there's the highlighted text, and this is the code text, and then this is the keyboard text. So it's actually quite similar, code and keyboard. You can see that it's just code snippets. And then there's underline, there's a strike through, and strike through is just a delete. So earlier on I said that delete text would look red and deleted, but it's actually not. It's just Ant Design's way of saying strike throughs. And then this is a bold text and this italic text, so nothing special there. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to show you, the next component that you can import from Ant Design's typography object is the paragraph object. So with the paragraph object, you can do stuff like make editable text, and you can copy the text with a button to your clipboard. And I'm just going to show you how to make these two, editable text and copyable text, because that's like the most common thing that we can all use. And the others, if you're going to use the others, you can just go to the documentation and look at the code and see how it's done. So let me go back to the code and show you how it's done. I'm going to delete all of these because we don't need them anymore. And then let's import paragraph from typography. Paragraph is a component that we can use in JSX, and then let's say editable, actually let's do copyable paragraph. And then to make it copyable, we just put copyable here in our attributes, and it's just as simple as that. It's just a copyable attribute in your paragraph component. So let me refresh this, and let me change the style to make it larger so those of you on small screens can see it better. So font size of 50 pixels. So we have a copyable paragraph that you can just click on the icon and copy. And when I go to the new tab and I paste Command V paste, and you can see that it's copied. And if I change this to something else, this is something else that's going into your clipboard. Then I'm going to copy this and then new tab, and I can paste, and you can see that this is exactly the text that's going to get pasted in. And finally, let's look at how we can make this text editable. So here we just have to replace this copyable thing into editable, and then when we reload this and we can go back to our browser tab, I can instantly change this text here. Now one thing you're going to notice is that it actually looks really ugly because it fills up the entire width of the parent element, which is currently the viewport of our browser window. So I'm going to change that. I can say let's put width in the styles here. Let's put this to be 1000 pixels. Still quite crazy, but not as crazy as it used to be. And you can see it's still stuck to the left side of our screen. So I'm going to give it a margin left. So margin left. Let's give it 500. Let's take a look at that. Now when I click edit, you can see it doesn't look too crazy anymore, but it doesn't stop there. So instead of leaving the editable property just like that, you can add an object to that prop. So we can say like a tool tip. Let's change this. Edit me please. So when I save this and I reload this, you can see that when I hover over the icon to edit this text, you can see it says edit me please. So this is something that you can change. The tooltip isn't the only key that we can add into this object here. So when if I do a comma here and I do control space, you can see all of the available props that we can add here. I'm just going to do icon for now. Let's do icon equals to, let's import an icon from Ant Design. So we talked about icons in the previous video, so be sure to check that. But let me just look at the edit icons here. Let's see. Does this look same? Okay, we're going to take this form outline icon here. Let's just click on that to copy that. I'm going to do icon equals to form outline. I'm getting an error here because this is what happens when you code in too many languages at the same time, because that should be a colon instead of an equal sign. So let's import this form outline icon from ntd. So import form outline from ntd at ntdesign/icons. I'm sorry. So let's save that and let's reload this. You can see that the icon is going to change to our custom icon. One thing that you're going to notice is that if I come here and I go and edit this text, this is now another text, and I hit enter, and you can see it just reverts back to its original text and it doesn't really do anything. And the way we can fix this is to use states. So the way we can put our text in state here would be to add the unchanged prop here. So unchanged is going to take in a function that we're going to define soon. So let me import state from React. Once again, this is nothing specific to Ant Design. This is more of a React technique. So I'm going to import useState from React, and inside of our functional component here, we can say const of my text and set my text equals to useState. Let's begin. This is the initial text in state. So if you don't know what I'm doing here, this is basically how you can set states in React. If you want to learn more about this, I have videos that cover states in React. So let's go to onChanger and pass in that function, that setMyText function here. So setMyText is basically a function that we can call to change the state which is stored in my text. So I'm going to just pass that into our onChanger, and I just realized that I spelled this wrong. So onChange, let's save this. And then instead of putting this is something else going on into your clipboard here, I'm going to put in my text. So my text is just a variable that contains the state information. I'm going to save that, and let's reload this, and you can see this is the initial state. And when I change this, let's say this is changed. And remember, from the previous time we did this, before we implemented state, when we hit enter, it's going to revert back to the original text. But when we use state, when I hit enter, you can see that it actually changed, and it's going to be persisting across our edits. This has changed for the second time, and you can save that, and you can see it's actually changed this time. Now, of course, if I reload the browser tab here, you can see that it goes back to its original text. So if you want this text to persist across different browser windows and different users, you'll probably want to use a persistent backend for this, where you store all of your information. So this is how you do typography in InDesign, and in the next video, we'll take a look at how we can manage the layout of our app in InDesign. In the last video, we did typographies and texts with InDesign. So in today's video, we'll be taking a look at dividers and spacing. So what I did here was I cleared out everything from the last video, and I replaced it with this hello world paragraph, and I went and gave this div a style of padding 100 pixels. And the reason I did that was just so that our content doesn't stick to the top left corner of our browser window. So let's take a look at how we can make those dividers now, shall we? I'm first gonna make this paragraph longer, and I'm gonna clone it a few times so that we can have separation. So when I save this, you can see that this is how the paragraph looks like right now. So to add our divider, we'll just have to go and import that from InDesign. So import divider from ND, and then we can add those here. So I'm gonna paste it all between the paragraphs here, and let's save this. It seems like everything's working, and you can see on the right side that we have a very thin divider here. If you're coding this on your own computer, you'll be able to see that fine line there. If you look at how I implement my dividers here, you can just see that it's a self-closing tag, and it doesn't have any props. So what we can do is we can make it we can make a closing tag there and add some text in the middle of the divider. So let's say center title, and then when I save this, you can see on the right side we get a divider with a title in the center. And design allows left and right titles as well. So we can do another divider here with a title, left title, and when I hit save, it's just another centered title. And we can make it align to the left by going to our divider tag here and adding a prop called orientation. Let's set this to left. And when I save this, it's actually aligned on the left. And of course, we can do this to the right side as well. So let's do closing tag. Let's say right title, and then I'm going to do orientation equals to right, and then that will be a right title, as you can see on our right side of the screen here. There's one other prop that I want to show you that you can use in your divider. So now you can see that the dividers have titles as their texts. But what if I don't want titles? I just want plain old text. So what we can do is we can go to our divider tag here and add an attribute called plain. So I'm going to add that to the left title and the right title just so you can see it, and I'm going to save, and you can see that the titles become plain text. So far, you have only seen horizontal dividers, and we can actually make vertical titles, and let me just demonstrate that to you right now. I'm going to clear out all of these, and we're going to use some anchor tags. So let's say I have a few anchor tags like this. This will be anchors, and let me clone that a few times. If I save this, it's going to look like that. it's all stuck together. What if I wanted to have dividers in the middle of these anchor tags, just so that they're not all stuck together like that? We can actually add dividers like this, divider, and we can give them a type of vertical. So let me save that, and you can see that the anchors are no longer stuck together and they have a very thin line in between them. Although those lines are really thin, let me see if I can show it to you if I zoom in. So you can see that there are actually lines there. And let me reset this, and this is how it would look like. So that's all for dividers in Ant Design. Now let's move on and take a look at spacing in Ant Design. So we can import space from Ant Design, and I'm actually going to override the divider with space. And I'm going to show you how we can do this spacing with space from Ant Design as well. So this is how the anchors look like without spacing. I'm going to zoom in just a little so you can see better what's going on here. That looks really stuck together, right? And we can solve this by using the space component provided by Ant Design. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put that down here. So I just wrapped these anchor tags in a space component, and you can now see that the anchors are no longer stuck together. Now if you look at the anchors here, these are spaced out evenly horizontally. What if we want to make these anchors stack up vertically? We can do that with our space component by giving in the prop of direction equals to vertical, and I'm going to save that, and you can see that the anchors now become stacked vertically just by passing in direction equals to vertical. Now let's talk about how we can go about customizing the spacing, the amount of spacing between these anchors. I'm going to replace these two anchors with a card from Ant Design just to demonstrate it a little better. So to do that, I have to import card from Ant D, and if you don't know how to use the card component from Ant D, don't worry. I have videos on that in the playlist. For this video, you don't have to really know how the syntax of how to use the card component. You just have to know that the card component is a component from Ant D that we can use. I'm going to save that, and this is how the card looks like. And right now you can see that the card is pretty hard to see because it has a white background and the border isn't too thick. So you can see I've added a style prop here that points to styles.card, and styles.card right now it doesn't exist. So I'm going to create styles.card by pasting this here. So in my styles object, I have a card, a sub object that has some styles. So width of 200 pixels, the background color, the border color, and the display type. I'm also going to come here and comment this anchor out, and then I'm going to clone the card multiple times here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to save that, and I can reset the zoom here so you can see how it looks like. So what I'm actually going to do now is get rid of the direction equals to vertical prop, and when I save this, you can see that the cards will go beyond my screen. So I'm going to fix that by giving a new prop to the space component here, and that's called wrap. So if you put wrap here like this, and then when you save it, it's going to wrap around the edges of the screen so that it won't overflow beyond the screen. And let's talk about the sizing of the space. So right now, I don't really like the sizing of this. I want the space to be more. So I can actually go and put size here equals to middle. For some reason, it's called middle. If I were the lead developer at Ant Design, I'll be calling this medium. So small, medium, and large. But they chose to go with the middle, so middle it is. Then you can see that the spacing is now middle. I can set this to, I think, large. Is it large? Yes, so it's large, and now the spacing is so big that it wraps over and it's going to overflow like that. I can resize the window, and you can see that this is the large spacing, and the reason it's coming out to the next line here is because of this wrap attribute here. So let's change that, and we can of course go back to small, and then the spacing will revert to small. Now there are some instances in which large isn't big enough and small isn't small enough, and if that's the case, you can actually change the size to contain some integers. So let's set this to 50, and this is larger than large. I can set this to 100, and it's going to be 100. I can even set it to 8,000, and it's going to be 8,000. I believe the unit to be in pixels. You know what? Let's change this to 20. Alright, next let's talk about the alignment of all of these items in a space. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get rid of one of the cards here, and I'm going to resize this. So let me get rid of wrap and resize this so that I can see everything on one screen. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of the paragraph here, and I'm going to clone this one down. This is amazing. Okay, let's save that. And now you can see that we have automatic alignment. So everything is aligned center. So if I do align equals to center, this is what it's doing right now. I can also change align equals to start. So if I save this, everything is going to be aligned on the top. So that is how it looks like. There's also end. So if you save align equals to end, it's going to be aligned from the bottom, and that's actually, I think it's going to look the same if I set align equals to baseline, and that's basically almost the same as align equals to end in our example. So let's change this back to center, and so that's how you can align in end design. And the last thing that I'm going to show you in this video is how you can use the split property of the space component to combine spaces and dividers. So let's get rid of all of the cards here, and let's use our anchor tags here. I'm going to create a few more. And so if you remember, the way we would separate these anchor tags from getting stuck together is by using dividers. So we can do like dividers, divider, and then we can do this for all of the lines here. We can copy and paste this divider here, and right now it's not going to work because I have not imported that here, so I have to import that. So divider, and then when I save this, you can see this is how it looks like. The divider actually looks really small, so I'm going to zoom in here, and the dividers aren't showing up. So I think what we have to do is go to dividers here, and let's add a type of vertical, so we get vertical dividers. When I save that, and sure enough, we see our vertical dividers there. Actually, I'm going to zoom this in so you can see that the dividers exist. So you can see that line there, that's a divider, and I'm going to zoom back out so it looks nicer. But the thing is, there is a better way of doing this. Just let's say we have a ton of anchor tags here, and then what you have to do is go and copy these divider tags and put it everywhere between your anchor tags, and that's just not how we would write our code. So let's get rid of those dividers. And then the way we can automatically add dividers between these components, these children components inside the space component, is by using the split property. So the split property takes in a react component, and we can paste our component right there, and when we hit save, you can see it still works the same. So when I refresh this, you can see that all of the anchor tags have a divider in between them, and it is automatically added in by the space component from end design because we've used the split property here. So I'm just going to resize this window here so you can see it better, and I'm going to zoom in, and it's just so you can see that the dividers actually exist in between the anchors, even though I did not manually add dividers in between all of these anchors here on the left side. And that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll take a look at how End Design's grid system works.